Hey everyone, Selwyn here from Wynn Strength, wrapping up the 5th week of the Average to Savage 2.0 training program, currently performing the Hypertrophy edition of the template written by Greg Knuckles over at StrongerByScience.com. Like usual, I'll leave links below so you can check out the program as well as the Stronger by Science website. Great resource there. So week 5 wrapping up, a couple more weeks before deload, actually the second last week before a deload week. It's kind of not a great week in terms of performance, a little bit subpar across the board, but that's kind of been the theme for this first phase of the mesocycle, just because we did transition over to hypertrophy focused style training, and that's involved a lot more volume and tonnage that I'm used to handling back when I spent almost a year purely focused on developing my strength levels. So a little bit of an eye opener, but again, it's kind of nice to have this change of training and change of pace. I'm still enjoying the training each week, and it's still tough training, but it's still fun using those higher rep, higher volume style workouts. And with that, I'm noticing that my energy levels, while still zapped by the end of the workout sessions, it does feel like they're improving slightly week to week. So the last 4 weeks weren't that great, but again, each week seems to be a little bit better in terms of energy levels throughout the entire training session. But that doesn't mean the performance of the weights lifted is getting better necessarily. It just feels like I'm keeping up with the workloads a lot better than I was in the past. For those of you that are curious, I haven't made any real diet changes or any real nutritional changes. I've been kind of just maintaining my weight for the last 6 weeks. What I plan to do is, with the second wave of the Average Savage program, I'll be entering into a slight caloric deficit in order to help reduce some weight and hopefully get some body composition changes. But for these first 7 weeks, no real changes in the diet, just kind of maintaining right around 206 to 210 pounds, kind of fluctuates day to day, but that's kind of normal for weight. So what I'll do is I'll throw over to some training footage and some voiceovers for some highlights of training over the week. So starting off with the squats with the SS yoke barbell, my technique focus this week was to maintain as much of an upright back angle as possible in order to fight the falling over effect that the SS yoke bar has. I've found that for my squatting style, that the heeled squat shoes help a lot more with this for the SS yoke, as I'm able to get my knees to come forward a lot more in the heeled squat shoes. Having a stance width where my heels are shoulder width and my toes pointed slightly outwards does feel the most powerful for me. Too wide and my hips don't feel flexible enough to get to the depth, and when it's too narrow, I don't feel as powerful out of the hole. So this is that good balance there. If you are trying to find your perfect squat stance width, play around each week with weights in the 60 to 70% of your 1 rep max for a couple of reps, and you'll figure out which width is most powerful for you. Moving on to the close grip incline bench press, progress is going well with the bench accessories. The biggest bonus has been no shoulder pain or discomfort throughout this entire 5-week block so far. And the preceding 8 weeks as well, which I think is a promising sign. After today, I did have some slight DOMs in the triceps, which I think is a great indication that the triceps are getting a little bit more activation than the pecs, which is awesome because everyone could always use some stronger triceps. Moving on now to the stiff-legged deadlift. I like to use the stiff-legged deadlift as a lift that focuses on my hamstrings. Not having access to any hamstring isolation type equipment or machines, I tend to shift my deadlift accessory work to movements that will focus and intensify on my hamstrings. For this one, I like to think of shifting my butt back as much as possible, and that activates the most hamstring personally. So moving on now to some fat grip chin-ups. I personally don't like to go to fairly for the chin-ups or pull-up work just because I don't think I can get as much back activation. Once I get closer to fatigue, my biceps tend to kick in a lot more than usual. So I like to keep it within 2 to 3 reps of failure. Front squats, we're slowly creeping up to some decent weights. I'm really been focusing on keeping my back as upright as possible. I found that getting the barbell pressed against my throat as much as possible without tricking myself to be really helpful here, just because it does shift that barbell more in line with the center of gravity. Having that push back a little bit further is nicer on the wrists, and does help with keeping my elbows in a more upright position by focusing on keeping those elbows pointed up to the ceiling. It does maintain that upright torso a little bit better than if you're just not focusing on that. I found that to be the better cue for me to keep the back upright rather than trying to focus on keeping the back upright itself. The Z press was a struggle this week. I did notice a lot of fatigue in the lower back, which didn't help with balancing the barbell and creating that solid base. My triceps, again, also had that fatigue from earlier in the week from the close grip incline bench press. So we did miss that rep target by 2. So not a stellar performance this week. I do need to work keeping those elbows a little bit more forward during the press, as you can see them kind of drift outwards, just leading to a slightly less efficient lift, and putting some of that tricep work out of the equation. Moving on to some deadlifts. This week was another great performance for the deadlift, with the reps targets being matched, and I'm actually doing some complete reps with the lockout at the top. I'm finding that the higher rep work to be really good at highlighting the technical deficiencies with the deadlift. Lately, it does feel as though my deadlift technique has started to deteriorate. Might be overthinking it, but the pull doesn't feel as smooth as it has in previous years or months. You can see my shins kick the bar forward ever so slightly when I initiate the pull, indication of a poor starting position, so something I need to work on in the coming months. I think I need to get more into my heels with the deadlift, as the weight does tend to shift forward and pull me on my toes more, which is a sign that I need to think about fixing something with the technique. And it does mean just a less efficient movement. So I'm doing more work than is necessary, and it's not allowing me to lift as much weight as I could have if I had better technique. So that'll wrap up the 5th week of training. You can see the highlights over the course of the week. Again, not the best performance, but again, we're still building. I'm still happy with how the program is progressing and how my body's making those adjustments to the new demands of the training style. Be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on the further updates with the Average to Savage training program. I'll also leave a playlist at the end so you can check that out, catch up on previous episodes, and subscribe so you don't miss out on the future episodes, as well as my final overall rating and review of the program. Currently 5th week in, so 21-week program. You do the math, in a couple of months we'll have a final overview there. This has been someone from Wynn Strength, and remember, a better life through strength.